Good morning, 8th grade social studies. Morning, almost afternoon. Probably by the time I share my screen, it'll be afternoon. But anyways, I'm going to be reading your passages and questions that you have for the week for social studies. Hopefully it helps you out. If anything, you get to hear a familiar voice, a little different than the ones you have been hearing. But anyways, I have all your week or all your work for the week pulled up. And here it is. So like I said, I'll just be reading it and reading the questions. And then if you guys have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me, whether it be through Canvas, through my school email, or I gave you guys a number that's my Google Voice. You can call or text me, and I'll be happy to help you as best as I can. So this is day 1, so this should be for Monday for this week. Day 1, government. After the American Revolution took place, the newly formed country needed to figure out how it would be run and who would be the new leader. This was a crucial time for this country, as it could either thrive or fall apart. They had just fought for their independence from a government they saw as a tyrant and too controlling. They looked to stay away from a controlling leader. The first attempt at a government was called the Articles of Confederation. Instead of most of the powers being in the hands of the national government, it was in the hands of the state government. The Articles of Confederation would not last as it was too weak. With all the powers in the hands of the state of the government, the national government could not be run successfully. One main weakness of the Articles is it not being able to levy taxes. You cannot run a country if you cannot fund it. Another weakness was not being able to raise an army. The new country could not defend itself against any attacks without a military. Lastly, they could not regulate commerce, so they could not force states to trade with each other. All these weaknesses of the Articles made the country vulnerable. They were forced to start over. And then your questions for that are: number 1, what was the first attempt at a government called? Number 2, why did the new colonists fear a strong government? Number 3, why did Articles of Confederation fail? And then number 4, who had most of the power under the Articles? So again, that was Monday or day 1. This is Tuesday or day 2. George Washington. George Washington is an important figure in American history. He was in the military during the French and Indian War. It is during this war where he gained experience learning from some of his mistakes. He would eventually become the general of the colonial forces during the American Revolution. He led them to victory over the stronger British military. It was with his direction and willingness to take chances that it was possible. He was such a great leader that they looked to him to be the first leader of the newly formed United States. George Washington would become the first president of the United States. He would set the standards of how a president would act in office. He set up the idea that a president would only serve 2 terms. He believed anything longer would lead to a bad or corrupt leader. He established a group to help make choices, now known as the President's Cabinet. He also established the State of the Union. This is where the president gives a speech about how the government is running and the health of the country. So your questions for this are: number 1, what did George Washington do in the French and Indian War? Number 2, why was George Washington important to the United States? Number 3, what standards did George Washington set for presidents? And number 4, what is the cabinet? On to day 3. Which is Wednesday, the day I'm recording this. You have an ERQ that says explain and identify the Articles of Confederation, and then you move down a little bit and you have a passage. After the fail of the Articles of Confederation for being too weak, they needed to form a new way to govern. They originally looked to amend the document, but realized they would do better by starting over. This new document is called the Constitution. This corrected all the downfalls of the Articles and established a stronger national government. The states and colonies gathered delegates to debate and argue over how the government should work. The new document allowed for the national government to raise taxes and establish an army. It also established boundaries between what powers the states have and what type of powers the national government has. The Bill of Rights was added to protect individual rights. This document also was able to be amended in order to keep up with the times. It is called the oldest living document because it is still in use today and is still being adapted. Your questions for that are number 1, what did they originally try to do with the Articles of Confederation? Number 2, what powers did the national government have under the Constitution? Number 3, what is it called when the Constitution is adjusted or changed? And number 4, what protects citizens' rights? On to day 4, which should be Thursday. Oops. So day 4 is the Bill of Rights. After the Revolution, people were still fearful of a powerful national government. They looked to protect their rights from all governments. In order for the Constitution to be agreed upon and passed into law, they had to include something to protect citizens' rights. The part of this part included was called the Bill of Rights, and it guaranteed citizen rights and protected them by law. So they came up with 10 amendments, and the Constitution was passed into law. In the Bill of Rights, there are particular rights protected from the government. For instance, the First Amendment protects their freedom of speech, press, religion, and assembly, while Amendment 4 through 8 are all about if a person commits a crime and what rights the person has. In these amendments, the person has the right to a speedy trial, prohibits illegal searches of property, has the right to a trial by jury, and a person is innocent until proven guilty. The Fifth Amendment also protects someone from testifying against themselves. Your questions for that? There's supposed to be 4, but there's a little issue with it, so I can only see 2 right now. If you want me to read the other 2 questions, I can make it happen, but for this, I'll just read these 2. So number 1, explain the Bill of Rights, and then number 2, what had to be included in the Constitution for it to pass. And then your last day, day 5, which will be Friday. In 2 paragraphs, pick 3 laws or rules you believe to be most important in establishing a country and explain why they're important. So this is pretty much an opinion piece. What 3 laws or rules do you think a country should have, and why are they important? So if you guys have any questions, like I said earlier, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help you. Just let me know, and enjoy the rest of your week.